Hello and welcome. You are tuning in to another edition of Southeast Ohio Sports Talk. I'm Ben Spicer, sports reporter from the Portsmouth Daily Times, joined by sports editor Kevin Colley. We talked about soccer on last week's episode. Today we're going to switch it up and talk a little bit about volleyball.
Yep.
So we're going to open with the Notre Dame Titans, and we covered their game on Monday night against Portsmouth. And Notre Dame looked pretty good. They're in the SOC 1, of course. And just looking at some of their stats this season, Lexi Smith, the senior, has had a big year for them. 102 kills on the season for Notre Dame with a 58% hitting percentage. She also has 22 service aces this year and leads the team in blocks with 8 and also leads the team with 73 digs. So she's just getting it done on all areas of the court. As a team, they have a serve percentage of 92% and only 20 ball handling errors this season in 19 sets played. So They're limiting their mistakes. Overall, I just think Notre Dame is a great team. I know we went to cover them. What did you see from Notre Dame last night?
I just thought they did an excellent job, like you said, limiting their mistakes. In volleyball, that's the big key, and any coach will tell you that is limiting your mistakes, not so much about taking advantage of your kill chances. Yes, you have to do that too, but the mistakes are the big part. When they made their run in the second set to win 28-26, they made less mistakes than Portsmouth did. After getting down 10-3, they continued to fight back and showed off the hustle and the grit that they're known for. Lexi Smith was outstanding in that match, and you've already touched on it. She had 19 kills, a 56.2% attack percentage, only one attack error. I mean, those outstanding numbers for a person that I think could play for any school that she really wants to, volleyball-wise. I mean, I really do think she's a legitimate, outstanding athlete. I really think she's being slept on by a lot of volleyball coaches around the area. And they, outside of Lexi, they have other great players. Katie Detweiler at 6'4" is a physical middle hitter that can easily get you kills and is a great person at blocking just attempts with her length and size. And then you have Allie Smith and Cassie Shaver on that back line, and Taylor Schmidt back there as well contributing. They're excellent too. Just hustling and getting out and diving for loose balls, putting their body on the line to save attempts. Cassie and Allie made in consecutive weeks on home affairs against Clay and Portsmouth have made plays where they both have dove out for loose balls and kept them alive by just getting a little tip of the finger or a little bump of the wrist on the ball, and it set up Lexi for a spike, and they ended up taking a set. And 2 points is a difference. I mean, that's a huge momentum changer in sets. Don't forget about Claire Hash too. She's an excellent outside hitter and has really come along well.
All right, next up on the show, we've got New Boston, the Tigers. They've got a 5-2 record on the season, and just looking at what they do, they've got 6 seniors on the roster, led by Allie Hamilton and Kaylee Stone, and the 2 of those have combined for over 100 kills on the season. I talked with their head coach, Kendra Holbrook, earlier this season. I covered their game against Northwest, and she said they had a lot of high expectations for this season. So they've started off on a good start. They've got several great teams within their conference, Notre Dame and Clay. So it'll be fun to watch to see who ends up taking that SOC 1. We mentioned the Clay Panthers a little bit, and I know you've covered them. They've got a 5-2 record this season, 3-1 in the conference, and that one loss came to Notre Dame. Overall, just some stats for their season. They've got 2 sisters on the team that have a high impact on the team this year, Jensen and Jalen Warnock. Jensen is a junior. She leads the team with 80 kills and has a kill percentage of 57%. She has had 10-plus kills in the last 5 games of the season. And then Jalen, the sophomore, had 14 serving aces against East and 8 service aces against New Boston. So you've seen Clay play several times this season. What are your thoughts on the Panthers?
Jensen Warnock is the leader of the team, like you said. She's had as many as 26 kills in a game. I really think, with only 1 senior on the entire roster, this Clay program has a big opportunity in front of it. Maybe not so much this year as it will in 2018 when the lights could really be on them. With Notre Dame losing Lexi Smith and Allie Smith to graduation, the Clays could be, it's obviously going to be a fight anytime Clay and Notre Dame play. Rivals anyway, but then both being at the top 2 perches in the SOC 1 division, so in the league. So I really think Clay's got a promising future. It could be a team to watch in the entire county going forward. Not only do you have Jensen Warnock up front, along with her you have Delaney Gilliland, Taylor Lewis, who all provide some size. Lila Brown is a great, has done a great job in spreading the ball around to her hitters. Has had as many as 34 assists in a match. And then you have Shaylin Vassar, and like you said, Jalen Warnock on that back line that solidifies the whole entire unit. So, and they're all juniors or less in eligibility. They're all going to be back. So it's a very promising unit that could really do some big things. I would not be surprised in 2018 that they make a Final Four run, and I think this year they can make a regional run. I think them both can make regional runs this year.
It's got to be great as a coach to have those young players who are so talented over there at Clay. So let's go ahead and look at the SOC2 teams to beat, and I think Wheelersburg kind of solidifies themselves as that. They're 5-0 on the season. They've got a great senior in Ellie Ruby, and then they've got a young player in Allie McQuay who's just done great. Let's take a look at some of their numbers on the season. For Ellie Ruby, and let's look at some of their highlights as well. She says, I think it says a lot for Ellie as a leader to be the one making hustle plays. She's certainly a teammate to look up to, and for her to come, she's the libero for the team. For her to come with relentless effort like that, I think that says a lot about who she is as a player. And as a teammate of hers, I think that's someone that I could really look up to. She's given those effort plays and just relentless on the court.
I talked to Ellie Ruby and interviewed her after her exploits in track, and then in 2016, obviously she was state titleist in D3 or D2, excuse me. You won't find many more well put together people from a mental and just emotional standpoint than Ellie Ruby. Is confident but not cocky, and is just a mental leader that you want to have on the team that solidifies that back line. Her and Abby Cowner are excellent multi-sport athletes, and you mentioned Allie McQuay really coming along. Alan Perry's really high on her as well. That's a great trio to have. And Perry already did a lot as an assistant at Greenup, and then he went to South Point as the head coach there. Took a program that had really struggled and was facing really low depths, and won like 2 or 3 games some years. Took it to a regular district semifinal, final contender. Now he's got a program in Wheelersburg that has the tradition of having won conference championships and having been to the district. And I look for Wheelersburg as Perry gets into his later years coaching there to be a regular contender in the regional tournaments.
So we talked a little bit about Ruby McQuay, just a sophomore, and what she's able to do is just phenomenal for the Pirates. She leads the team with 55 kills. She has had 9+ kills in every game this season, and is a complete player. She played defense a little bit as well. She's got 27 digs on the year. So the Wheelersburg Pirates, definitely a team to look out for in the SOC2. We did sit down with South Webster head coach Darcy Claxton after the Jeeps got their first win of the season last week. Let's see what she had to say about the rest of the league.
Well, obviously Wheelersburg's always in the mix. Waverly has some talent too. I mean, it's one of those years that anyone's dangerous on any given night, because you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if your team's going to show up, if their team's going to show up. So it's an interesting year with it. The last couple of years have been interesting with the league.
So as for volleyball, that's pretty much all we have there. Be sure to stay tuned throughout the season. The season's about halfway done, so we've been able to cover several teams. Looking forward to getting out and watching some more teams play later on in the season. But now we're going to go ahead and recap the BCFL championship game. I know you went out for that. Not the result the West Portsmouth Tanks were looking for, but they did walk away with several season accolades. So let's go ahead and look at those. Brian Roten, of course, was named the BCFL Coach of the Year. He's the defensive coordinator for the Tanks. Richard Ellery was named Co-Defensive Player of the Year. And Job Swords, this was kind of a surprise. He only played in about 5.5 games, but he was named Co-Offensive Player of the Year. Yeah. And what do you think that says for Swords? He didn't even play a complete season, but to still win that award, I think that says a lot for the Tanks organization.
Yeah, he threw for 1,000 yards 5 games, and it just really shows how dominant Portsmouth was in its first 5 games before he went out with the injury during the middle of the Butler County game when they were up 18-0. Really speaks a lot to Job's ability to throw the football and to be a leader for the Tanks. It was just an outstanding year for Job. 12 touchdowns and really showed off playmaking abilities both in the pocket and outside the pocket. It's kind of like their version of Tim Tebow, maybe with a little less size, but a little bit more height.
And the craziest thing about this is this was his first year ever playing quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just sensational.
Yeah.
So just as goes to show how talented of an athlete and a football player he is. And we certainly hope to see him back on the field next year and wish him a recovery in his injury. He's a great player and a great guy to talk to. But now we're going to go ahead and look at Shawnee State. There were several teams we highlighted in last week's episode. So we're going to give you an update on how they did. First off, cross country just swept away the competition in their tournament. They finished first out of 4 in men's and first out of 5 in women's at the Mid-South Preview in Bowling Green. Brooke Smith, Wheelersburg grad, and Seth Farmer, Piketon grad, were named Mid-South Conference Runners of the Week. And guess what? They're heading to the Bronx on Friday for the Iona College Meet of Champions. So we hope Jonathan Lowridge gets to go up to the Bronx and experience that with the cross-country team.
Yeah, they've done well at the Iona College Meet of Champions. I know Sarah Beal, when she ran here, she's an assistant coach on the staff, always came up with good results and finished in the top 30 or 40. I mean, that's a competitive field. There are over 500, 600 runners on each side and 30-plus teams in it. And it's D1 schools. I mean, there's no slouches in that. So I applaud Eric Putnam for going to places and challenging the best of the best. That's why they are the best of the best in the Mid-South Conference. And they're going to continue to be as long as they continue up the standard of excellence that he's built there. Not the success does not lie.
Yeah, it certainly looks like they're going to be able to continue that success this season based on what they did in their first meet of the season. The men's and women's golf teams, they looked pretty good as well for Shawnee State. The men's team finished 2nd of 6 at KCU, and the women's golf team finished 2nd out of 4 at KCU. And Jordan Taman has continued to be impressive. He had a 2-day score of 150. Of course, the West Portsmouth grad continues his success as a medalist on the men's side. And then they also had a great day from Jacob Braskett, who had a 2-day score of 154. He was named to the all-tournament team. As for the women's, Holly Hart had a 2-day score of 175, and Taylor Boggs with a 2-day score of 180 were named to the all-tournament team for the women's team. And they will travel to the Mid-South Fall Tourney in Georgetown next Monday, so we wish the SSU golf programs the best of luck. As for the soccer teams, the men's team's still looking for their first win of the season. The game against Ohio Christian this week was canceled due to weather. They've got homecoming weekend this weekend, but they've got some tough teams coming into town. They're going to play Indiana Institute of Technology on Saturday. They're 3-1, and then they'll play Bluefield College at home on Tuesday, who's 5-0 as of the time we did the show.
Yes.
So it's not getting any easier for the men's team.
Yeah, and it won't. I mean, the Mid-South Conference is legit. Lindsey Wilson obviously is a power, and Georgetown is always in the top 25 or right around that cut every year. Campbellsville is very, very tough. I just don't see many wins on the schedule for them. You just got to hope that they improve. They still got a really young team. They don't lose very many seniors. And it's a program with a lot of promise. It really is. You just got to be patient. That's what patience is key virtue, and it's a cliche, but it's true.
When that young nucleus of local talent, I think once they get established within the Shawnee State program, I think look out for the men's soccer team, because I think they've got a lot of talent on that roster, and in the future I think they're set up for success.
Yes.
The women's soccer team, though, they want to win this season, and so far they've done that. They're 3-1-1 on the season. They've been pretty impressive, and they're going to be at home this weekend for a homecoming weekend as well. They're taking on Bob Jones University, who's 1-3 this Saturday, and then they're going to take on Cincinnati Christian on Tuesday, who has an identical record as Shawnee State. So the girls soccer team, the women's soccer team, looking very good so far. The volleyball team, they went 1-3 in the Shawnee State Fall Classic. So let's take a look at that. They lost their first 3 games, but were able to battle and beat Montreat for the second time this season in 5 sets in the last match of the tournament. They lost 2 out of 3 games in 5 sets, so it's not exactly like they're getting blown out.
Right.
They've been very competitive. They have really improved this season, and I think that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, Carson Roney from Eastern has been absolutely fantastic, and I really think she's been the main reason for their success. That was a huge steal in getting Carson Roney over from the women's basketball program to play volleyball, because I really think, one, volleyball is Carson Roney's best sport, even though she's a heck of an athlete and could play any sport that she really wants. 2, I mean, when you pair her up with Christina Shelton, that's a really tall front line, and it's going to be tough for opponents to really get around two hitters that are 5'11" or taller, with Roney being 6'1", 6'2" with some hops. So, I mean, yeah, I agree, Ben. I mean, they've really improved a ton this year.
they've got a tough opponent coming in for homecoming weekend. They'll open with Lindsey Wilson, who's 10-0 this season, so a very tough game to see where the program is at. And then they'll play Pikeville, who's 4-7 on the season. And not only these sports that we've talked about coming up, but we've got tennis on the horizon for Shawnee State and the bowling team as well. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what the bowling team can do in their first year as an athletic program over at Shawnee State. Now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the program, top performers, and Kevin said he's got a lot for us this week, so go ahead, Kevin.
Yes, we've got 4 football teams. We've got Notre Dame football. Yes, they did lose this past week to Fayetteville 36-6, but I really forgot to mention what they did the week prior when they beat Millersport 20-18 in overtime. Excellent victory going on the road over 2 hours away from home. You have to fight it out. Logan Emmett, the freshman, is the one who punches the winning 2-point conversion to put that game away. That shows incredible grit, guts, and poise for a freshman of all people to score the game-winning 2-point conversion that gets the program its first win of the year at probably an unexpected point in the season. You know, you probably expect them to get it maybe further on down the road. They get it 2 weeks in with a program that does not have a whole lot of high varsity experience. So hats off to Notre Dame. I know Bob Ashley's has had a very good outlook on the season so far. He just wants to see the program keep growing, and they're going to. I mean, they luckily through 3 games they haven't had anybody get hurt, and as long as they continue to keep healthy bodies, I think they'll be just fine to grow something even further on down the road. God, my goodness, then you go on the other side of the spectrum, you go to Weaversburg football, and they hold Heath to 100 total yards of offense exactly, while putting up 477 of their own, while shutting out Heath on the road, while also traveling over 2 hours away from home. Now, on top of all that, they got 477 total yards of offense while accumulating 94 yards of penalty yardage. I mean, what's it going to take to really? Opponents have to be thinking, what's it going to take to stop this team? I mean, Rob Woodward, whatever he's got going on there, this has got to be the best Weaversburg team since the state title group of '89, or at least one of them. I mean, the stuff that they put up together this year has just been absolutely unreal. Only allowing 9 points, outscoring their opponents 126-9. No wonder they're ranked 4th in D5 and have 4 first-place votes. I mean, I would give them a first-place vote if I was on the AP or registered with it. I mean, they're fantastic. Then you go to West football, another big win. They're ranked 9th in the AP poll with a first-place vote of its own. They fought back. Got to give a special shout because he asked me to. Kane Lewis had a pick. One of the guys who got 4 picks. So Kane, you did your part. That shout outs to you. But the entire West team has continued to stick to its mindset. They've gotten 3 big scores after coming back from behind in all 3 games, or by early 6-0, 8-0 deficits, 14-3 deficits, to come back and win resoundingly in all 3 of their victories against Fairland, Portsmouth, and Colgrove. So hats off to the West football program. They're obviously showing voters early on why they're possibly a top 10 team in Division 5, and that Westburg game is going to be so much fun to watch come Week 10 if both teams are still undefeated at this time. That Halloween Bowl is always anticipated no matter what the records are. Then you go to Valley, and I'm very, very impressed with Coach Darren Crabtree's squad.
By the way, I picked them.
Yeah, to win. You did, and I picked Piketon, so my crow is served on a silver platter because I picked Piketon, and I was wrong, and I will take my crow golden brown well done. Valley ended up winning that contest. Got a huge fade pass from Andrew Shope to Tanner Spradlin. Spradlin made an excellent adjustment to come back for the football. That made one defender miss, outraced the other defender to the corner of the near side pylon for the game go-ahead touchdown. Then on the next drive, Piketon, it goes all the way down seemingly to the Valley 30, but they have penalties, and Valley's defense bows up from there and stops them. Hats off to Valley. Those are the kind of victories you have to have in order to get your football program back on track. Huge victories. Got a shout out to, we've already talked about them and discussed them, but Notre Dame volleyball program with a huge 3-set victory over Clay, then comes out last night, gets a 4-set win over Portsmouth. 5-1 at 4-0 in SOC 1 play. It looks like the Titans are going to be another tough out this year. Surprise. I mean, Kelsey Glockner's really got that program rolling on in the right track. And then you got to shout out Berg and Northwest Soccer. It sounds like a broken record, but both teams have continued to tear up the competition. Berg comes back from a 1-0 deficit against North Adams on Saturday to pick up a 2-1 victory. Huge win on the road against a quality opponent from the Southern Hills Athletic Conference. And then you have Northwest continuing to roll over its opponents. A huge victory over Wheelersburg, won 9-1. It's just a dominating victory, and it speaks a lot to what Josh Keeney has done at Northwest and the kind of athletes that he's putting out there for them to have that amount of success. So shout out to each of those teams and keep doing what you're doing, because you're definitely representing the side of the county very well.
Yeah, for my top performers, I'm mixing it up a little bit. There's been plenty of famous player coaches in sports history. Bill Russell, Pete Rose, Jackie Moon even from semi-pro.
Yeah.
But we have a local player coach, and it's a little different for him, Luke Brown.
Yeah.
He coaches at Northwest High School. He's running back and linebacker coach there, and then he plays for the West Portsmouth Tanks.
Yeah.
So Luke actually coached in the game against Huntington Ross last Friday for Northwest, and then he went and played in the championship game for the Tanks. So shout out to him. We've got a great story coming on what Luke's done and what he hopes to do in the future, but it looks like his future's very bright.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a well-spoken young man. And he just seems like he has a really bright future.
Yeah, he does.
Also wanted to give South Webster's volleyball team a shout out. We mentioned them a little earlier, and their head coach Darcy Claxton. They started out 0-7 this season, got their first win of the season last week. So just keep pushing, guys. I know you guys are used to having great success. The season didn't really get off to the start that you wanted it to, but moving forward, you've got plenty of time to make up that ground and have a great season. And last but not least, we have to shout out the Portsmouth student section last night in their game against Notre Dame. They came in costumes, and check out this video. It's pretty interesting. They definitely got some attention as soon as they walked in. They got our attention.
This. Awesome.
It's pretty funny, great costume, but I do have to say something. They took their heads off.
Yeah, why?
It
was so much fun.
About 5-10 minutes in, mascot school would not be proud of that.
I know. It was so much fun to watch, too.
But it was still fun, a great entrance, and they definitely got the crowd on their feet as soon as they walked in there on the Portsmouth student section at Notre Dame. When we come back, we'll have a recap of last week's high school football games, as well as the broadcast schedule for the upcoming games on the radio this week. And then Hunter Staggs will rejoin us for Picks of the Week.
Let's take a look at some of the scores and recaps from Week 3. First off, Oak Hill knocked off Rock Hill by a count of 20-13. They looked very impressive on the ground, rushing for 296 yards as a team. Next up, Reedsville blanked Green by a final count of 41-0. Reedsville's defense really impressed in that one. Nelsonville York knocked off Memphis at home by a score of 50-33, but a lot of offense for the Falcons in that one. The East Tartans traveled to Alexander, and they beat the Spartans by a score of 53-20. Next up, Valley knocked off Piketon for their first win of the season. Wheelersburg continued to look impressive in a 41-0 shutout of Heath on the road. Waverly got the win over the Tanks, 31-17. Another big game from Clayton Howe, and Easton Wolf got it done on both sides of the ball. And then Portsmouth West continues their unbeaten season 3 games in. Big performance from Josh Berry with 16 total tackles, and the Senators win that one 28-6. Portsmouth traveled up to Galleon, but they weren't happy with the result. They ended up losing 23-0 to the Tigers. First time they've been shut out since 2016 versus Wheelersburg. Chesapeake ended Sims Valley's perfect start to the season by a final score of 38-0. Cameron Hardless with a big day for the Panthers in that one. Notre Dame lost at home to Fayetteville. Ben Mader had 101 rushing yards for the Titans. And then for Huntington Ross, they knocked off Northwest at home by a score of 48-28. Here's a look at the WNXT Week 4 broadcast schedule. You can tune into Watterson at Wheelersburg on Mix 99.3, Raceland, Kentucky at Valley on 107.5 The Breeze, Portsmouth at Rock Hill on Fox Sports 1260, and last but not least, Green at East on WNXT2. Pre-game show starts at 6:30 and kickoff at 7.
Welcome back to Southeast Ohio Sports Talk, where we've got our picks for the upcoming weeks of high school football games. This week, it's week 4, and we're going to update you on how we did last week. Hunter joined the program last week. He went 4-5 in his first week of picks. I went 5-3. Of course, I didn't pick the Ross and Northwest game, or else we'd be tied, Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin finished with a 6-3 record, and then you can see our totals for the season on that graphic there. And now we're going to pick this week's game, and we want to start off. We've got conference play for some of these schools, so it's starting to get interesting in the SOC. And we're going to lead off with some of those SOC 1 schools. Green traveling to East to take on the Tartans, and East, I think East is going to win this one pretty decisively.
Yeah, East pretty big. Their offense looked really good against Alexander, and they beat a D5 school by 30. I've got to go with the Tartans too.
Yeah, I'm on the side with you guys and go with East. I mean, Green, they did pretty good last week, but East has done really good the past couple of years, and I think they'll pull it out. I think they're good.
Right.
Northwest is traveling to Memphis looking for their first win of the season. Memphis proved to be pretty tough. I think tougher than their record indicates. They're 1-2, but they've played a really difficult schedule to start things off. So I'm going with the Falcons over Northwest in this one.
I'm going with Memphis also. Memphis did an excellent job last week of coming back from a 40-14 deficit to cut a Nelsonville York 26-point lead down to 10 before running out of gas and ended up losing by 17. I've got Memphis in a pretty sizable victory at home.
Well, like Kevin said, they did good against Nelsonville York last week. Go Falcons.
Yeah, Nelsonville York's definitely a tough team to play, and they put up 33 against them. So I think Memphis is going to have a very good season this year. Next up, Eastern is going to take on Notre Dame over at Spartan Stadium. What do you think about this one? I think I'm going to go with Eastern in this one. It's going to be close, though.
Yeah, I think it will be close. I think it'll be about a 15-point game. I got Eastern too. Eastern's got some issues right now with its skill players. Drake Myers, I think, has a season-ending injury possibly. He was carted off the field against Chillicothe Southeastern last weekend at 56 loss. They just need some momentum. I think they'll get it with a win over the Titans and improving Notre Dame football club that looked actually better than the score indicates against Fayetteville.
I'm going to go with Eastern. I like it.
So a clean sweep for Eastern in that one. Next up, we've got Sims Valley, who started off 2-0. They kind of came back down to reality last week when they played Chesapeake. But they've got a chance to make a statement against Oak Hill in their conference opener. Do you think they can do it? I think I'm going to take the Oaks in this one.
I'm going to take the Oaks, and it's going to be about the same score as Chesapeake was. Oak Hill played Chesapeake to within a touchdown, could have won the game at Chesapeake, where Sims Valley lost to Chesapeake by 38. I got the Oaks in a pretty sizable margin, possibly running clock.
Oak Hill has a really good team. They got good size. I'm pretty sure they got some good speed, and I know one of their coaches. He's pretty good. I'm going to say go Oaks.
All right, so next up, we already know who Hunter's going to pick in this one. Portsmouth West is traveling to Wellston this week, and surprise, the Senators are 3-0. I picked against them last week. I'm not picking against them this week, not making that mistake this time around. Senators are going to win this game at Wellston. What about you guys?
I got West. Their defense has been rock solid. They bend, but they don't break. They have a +4 turnover margin. I got West because they're going to continue to find a way to make the takeaways go in their favor.
They've had a great season, I'm telling you. Our defense has kicked some stinking butt. Our line is really good. Our running game is pretty good. Our quarterback, Dylan, he's doing really decent.
Right.
I'm going to have to go with West.
All right,
Of course.
big surprise there. I've picked against West the last 2 weeks, so if they lose this week, I'm going to feel really bad because it's the first time I've picked them, and I really hope that West wins. So next up, we've got a fun one. Raceland is coming in to Lucasville to play Valley.
Yeah.
And Raceland's a tough team from Kentucky. I really think that
sir.
Raceland's going to win this one. What do you think, guys?
They pitched 3 shutouts in their first 4 games. Their only loss being a 14-0 defeat to a talented Ashland football club. Yeah, I got Raceland in this one. Their defense is very stingy. A lot of Raceland fans are saying it's the best they've had since 2012, and I would echo those sentiments. I think Raceland's got a chance to go to the state semis in Class A if they pass the Williamsburg Hazard, Somerset, Paintsville hurdles that await them there. I got Raceland by a pretty big margin, Valley fans. I'm sorry.
Well, if Raceland is how they have been the past couple of years whenever they played West, they've been really good. They got a solid line, great quarterback, and they're just big overall. I think Valley might struggle against them. I'm going to say Rams.
Raceland plays West Portsmouth next week, don't they?
Yeah, it's going to be a big matchup. Big
gonna be a
matchup with
really
two
big
great
game.
gritty defenses.
I think we might have our game of the week for next week.
Yeah, no doubt.
But sticking with this week, Waverly, they're 3-0. They've been a surprise team. We haven't really talked about them. No surprise within that team. They knew they were going to be good this year. They're traveling to Fairland, and the Dragons knocked off Ironton last week. Fairland's been pretty tough this season. Do you think they have a chance at home against Waverly? I don't. I've got the Tigers.
I've got the Tigers, but I think the score will be very close because mainly Fairland's defense is so much better than it was 2-3 seasons ago. They used to give up all an 8 amount of points. It wouldn't be a shock if every opponent hung 40 on Fairland, but the past 3 games they've shown progress, holding West to 20. It was pretty impressive, and then going on the road and beating Ironton at Ironton, always a tough place to play, and they only gave up 21 to Ironton, so it will be close, but I think Waverly by 2 scores. Waverly's offense averaging 34.3 points per game is just going to be too much for Fairland to overcome.
Yeah. Fairland did really good against Ironton last week, and I was honestly really surprised. But I'm going to have to go with Waverly. I think they got the team to bring out a 4-0 record after this week, and I'm going to have to say the Tigers.
So this is a kind of interesting matchup. Portsmouth on the road at Rock Hill. Both teams are 1-2 in that one. We all picked Portsmouth last week. Is it going to be the same this week? I think the Trojans are going to come out and get a win here at Rock Hill.
Portsmouth needs to win this week, or their playoff hopes are going to be in serious jeopardy because they've got Fairland still waiting on their schedule. They've still got Ironton into week 10, and they've got Colgrove, and they've got Chesapeake. All of whom have looked fairly decent to good throughout the year. They need to get a win here. Rock Hill is young at the skill positions. I think Portsmouth will take this victory. I picked Portsmouth, but they really need to show some improvement and limit the penalties. If they don't, it's going to come back and bite them, and they're going to miss the playoffs. And this been a year that was expected to be, a big year for the Trojans.
Yeah, Kevin, like you said, it's supposed to be a really big year for the Trojans, and then after Tylen's big injury against who was it?
It was against Valley.
Yeah, it was against Valley. That really put a big hurt on them. I think Rock Hill is going to pull it out.
Oh, Rock Hill with the upset. All right. Well, here we've got Piketon. They're 0-3. They're going to be at home against Paint Valley, who's 1-2. Would you consider this a must-win for Piketon? I think the Red Streaks get their first win in this one.
I've got Paint Valley. Piketon just they have to prove that they close out games, and honestly they just have not done that this year. They go at home and they play Benton County in a game that most of us thought they'd win, and they end up losing by 22. Valley, it's a game I thought they would win on the road with having more senior laden experience than Valley. Valley comes out and with a team that's really still a year or two away from being back to where it was in the early 2010s, loses by 3 to Valley. Paint Valley's not as good to me as Benton County, but they're about equal plane as Valley is. I don't see Piketon winning this one either. I think I got Paint Valley by a touchdown. Piketon's really going to have to bow up and like Portsmouth get some wins because they've got St. Trace and Unioto waiting, and those are not easy games.
I want to say Paint Valley.
All right, 2 for Paint Valley. I think Piketon's going to win that one. Our last game before we get to our game of the week, Ironton traveling to Ashland, Kentucky to take on the Tomcats. Ironton's been 1-2 this season. Ashland's 2-2. Both teams looking for some momentum heading into the middle part of the season. Who do you got in this one? I think Ashland's going to take it at home.
I agree. I think Ashland does. They've got explosive playmakers with A-Rod Colburn at the running back position, and explosive returner, also explosive weapon out of the backfield who can also catch some passes. Braxton Ratliff is a 6'3", 6'4" quarterback who brings a lot of size and athleticism and a great arm to the table. And I just think Ironton secondary is not equipped to handle what Ratliff and Colburn can bring to the table. I got Ashland by 3 scores.
Well, in the past few years, we played Ironton in just 7-on-7s, or not Ironton, Ashland. They got a pretty good sized team. They have a lot of people. I'm going to say Tomcats.
All right. So plenty of good games going on this week, but was kind of hard to pick our game of the week, and we went with the Wheelersburg Pirates, the second time they've been nominated for game of the week. They're going to be at home. They're welcoming in Bishop Watterson, who's 1-2 on the season. Wheelersburg has just looked so dominant. Do you think Bishop Watterson has a chance? Can they hang around in this one? I'm going Pirates.
I'm going with the Pirates again. Yes, I think Bishop Larson will be there at halftime. It will be a close contest, but I think Berg shows its depth, its monstrous depth that they have, which is now at 90 players from what I read, and handles Bishop Larson by 3 scores. I see no weaknesses with this Wheelersburg team so far, other than the fact that they may commit maybe too many penalties. It's something that can easily be corrected. I mean, this Berg team is loaded, absolutely loaded.
Well, Bishop Watterson is a big team, and also is Wheelersburg. Wheelersburg, they're undefeated so far in the season, and I think it's going to continue. I got Wheelersburg.
All right, so Pirates winning in a clean sweep for our game of the week. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in to Southeast Ohio Sports Talk. For Hunter Staggs and Kevin Colley, I'm Ben Spicer. Make sure you guys check us out. Next week we'll have plenty of updates on high school football as well as high school sports and Shawnee State sports. Thanks so much again for watching.